Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining. The webinar will begin shortly. We have a number of folks still logging in, so we'll give everybody just another couple of minutes and then we will begin. Once again, welcome and thank you to all who just joined. I see that we have still quite a few more people joining today's webinar, so we'll give everyone just another minute or so, and then we will begin. Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Continuous Assurance for the AWS Well-Architected Framework. We are delighted to have three speakers on today's session. Rob Melka from AWS, Avi Aharon from Continuity Software, and Ori Tabachnik from CloudZone. We'll begin with Rob, who will review for us the AWS Well-Architected Framework. Next, Avi will share with us an automated solution for validating adherence to the framework. And after that, Ori will take us through the well-architected program. Finally, we will conclude with a customer case study and Q&A. Please feel free to submit your questions via the question box throughout the presentation. So, Rob, let's begin. Why does the well-architected framework exist?
Thanks, Gil. The main reason behind the well-architected is to drive better outcomes for our customers who are building and operating workloads in the cloud. A lot of you might have already heard of the well-architected tool within the AWS Management Console, but well-architected is a lot more than just the tool itself. Well-architected is a mechanism that our customers can use in their cloud journey. It essentially allows you to learn the strategies and best practices for architecting in the cloud and subsequently measuring that same architecture against AWS best practices using the well-architected tool and framework. This, in turn, allows you to make improvements to that architecture, addressing those risks that have been identified using improvement plans, and also taking advantage of some of are material, such as the well-architected labs, where you learn, measure, and build using architectural best practices through hands-on labs and real-world design scenarios for well-architected workloads. Additionally, you can work with AWS solution architects like myself and our well-architected partners like CloudZone to make those improvements for those workloads and mitigate or remove some of those risks that have been highlighted. So let's dive in and look at what the well-architected framework actually is and why you'd want to apply it. We've seen customers use well-architected to be successful in their cloud journey, and that's pretty much what we're sharing here. These are the lessons that we've been told by our customers as to why they're using well-architected and how it's helped them be successful. Customers are using well-architected to help them reduce firefighting, reduce the amount of manual effort that they're having to expend in things like capacity management. By using more automation, it means that their teams are able to experiment and release value more often, which in turn leads them to be able to build and deploy new features and functionality for their workloads more frequently and quickly. Understanding where those risks are within your architecture gives you the ability to address them, or at least be aware of them before they have an impact on your business. A good example of this would be your team getting distracted, perhaps taking away from their cycles, from working on key new initiatives that you want to prioritize because they're spending time firefighting or addressing these issues. Having visibility of these issues, understanding where those potential risks are, helps you lower the potential for them to impact you and allows you to mitigate those risks entirely. Ensuring that you're making active architectural decisions, understanding how those architectural decisions can impact your business outcomes means that you can then make more informed decisions. The outcome of well-architected is very much about giving you an additional source of data. It's giving you another data point to use to help decide what you should do about risks that might exist within your workload. Making sure your teams are aware of those best practices, making sure they're aware of different AWS services, features, and functionality, and how other customers have leveraged them to be successful. So what is the AWS Well-Architected Framework? The framework itself consists of 5 pillars. Each of these pillars are divided up into design principles, and from these design principles, we then get a set of questions that are asked as part of performing a well-architected review. And then those pillars. The pillars that make up the well-architected can be thought of similar to a foundation. Building a technology solution is a lot like constructing a physical building. If the foundations of the building aren't solid, it could cause structural problems that undermine the integrity and functionality of the building. We have seen from our customers that neglecting the 5 pillars, operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization, when they architect technology solutions, they have found it challenging to build a system that delivers the functionality requirements and that meets expectations. We've directly seen from our customers that when they incorporate these pillars, and you can incorporate them as well, it will help you to produce stable and efficient systems, which gives your teams more time to focus on functional requirements that are required for that workload. The design principles help you adopt an appropriate model when building for the cloud. It ensures you take advantage of the capabilities of AWS and free yourself from some of the constraints of thinking around traditional approaches. We have both general design principles that apply across the entire framework, And then we have pillar-specific design principles that apply for each of those pillars. For example, something like automation would be considered a general design principle, but we can make it pillar-specific by automating our responses to security events. By monitoring and then automatically triggering responses to certain events or certain conditions that occur within your account, it removes the requirement of an individual having to make those actions manually, which means you'll be getting a consistent response whenever those events or conditions occur within your workload. And now, let me hand it over to Avi from Continuity Software, an advanced AWS technology partner.
Thank you, Rob. Avi, I'd like to turn to you. Continuity Software provides an automated solution for validating adherence to the framework. Please begin by telling us a little bit about continuity.
Thank you, Gil, and thank you, Rob. So Continuity Software started 15 years ago in 2005. We started with providing resilience assurance solution for the largest enterprises worldwide. Basically, we serve 6 out of the biggest 10 US banks. And they started in asking us to make sure that they are meeting the resilience for their on-prem environment. Later on, they moved to private cloud, so we supported them on that journey. And once they started to deploy to a public cloud, starting with AWS, we supported them as well. So our focus currently on the public cloud domain is to provide the best of breed for reliability with a focus on outage and data loss prevention, continuous assurance for the AWS Well-Architected Framework, covering all 5 pillars. And as Rob mentioned, we are an advanced technology partner of AWS, also listed on the AWS Marketplace, both for public and private listings.
So, Avi, I think we all agree that achieving well-architected is important, but why the need for continuous validation?
That's a great question. So we gathered a lot of information for our customers over the years. So I would say that this is a combination of complexity, ongoing changes, knowledge gap, and insufficient control. Complexity from the perspective of the technology, and also the teams. From the technology perspective, we do see customers that use different kind of services, IaaS, PaaS, and they want to make sure that they are aligned with the up-to-date best practices, and also the way that the teams, the DevOps groups, and the developers communicate between themselves. From the perspective of ongoing changes, we see customers deploying several times a day into production, and they want to make sure that they are not injecting risks into their critical production workload. Knowledge gap, this is always an issue, specifically with the pace of innovation coming from vendors like AWS. Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that AWS came out with more than 2,000 main features and services in the past 12 months. And having the right controls in place, customers need to automate. They need to automate their processes, but also the checks and their testings.
So, Avi, with this approach, what specific use cases are you addressing?
So in order to achieve best of breed infrastructure, we have 4 main use cases. It starts with what we call proactive validation, kind of a shift left in order to eliminate risk. So we allow our customers to integrate with their CI/CD pipeline, for example, Jenkins. And once they deploy to staging or pre-prod environment, we sense that there is a change on that environment. We give them via API indications if there are any critical risks, and we expect them to correct those misconfiguration or to waive them before they continue to production, and eventually reduce cost comparing to fixing flaws in production environment. The second use case, which is, I would say, the most common one, is around outage and data loss prevention. and we provide our customer through our customer portal, a dashboard through which they can drill down and learn on their existing deployment. We provide them with all the risk detected and also share with them some recommendations in order to overcome those risks. And the third use case is about continuous assurance with the Well-Architected framework. And from that perspective, we are covering all 5 pillars of the Well-Architect as described by Rob: operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, and cost optimization. And I'll get back to that later and share with you more insight on that domain. And the last use case is about auto-healing. So we are not only providing the recommendations, we also provide the code based on open source project, which include Lambda functions that are correlated to each and every risk that is shown on our portal. And through that, based on an API, the customer can automate the process to achieve self-healing, get faster response time, and reduce operational costs.
Sounds good on paper. How about a quick demo?
Great. So let me share my screen. Good. So what you can see over here is an example of a customer portal. It's very easy to onboard new accounts on the platform. Sorry, let me just log in. So we can see over here an example of customer that onboarded 3 different accounts. It's a read-only role-based, so it takes like a few minutes to onboard. Once the customer onboard an account, we automatically share through the dashboard the deployment, and we give the customer visibility and also provide kind of a scoring, health scoring. So we do see here that there is a specific region. In this specific case, it's US West, and the customer has a kind of a poor situation on that specific region. So we can drill down and learn more on each and every risk. For example, we see here an EC2 instance that has only a partial point-in-time copy. And we see that recently the customer added a new volume, but forgot to create a snapshot for that specific volume. So in case of a disaster or a cyber attack or ransomware, they will not be able to recover their data and they will face a data loss. So this is really a risky situation. On top of that, and related specifically to the Well-Architect, we have our compliance view. And through that compliance view, the customer or the partner can choose the specific pillar, one or all out of the 5 pillars discussed: reliability, security, cost optimization, operational excellence, or performance. And on the right side, we do see all the rules that are related to those pillars and the resources that are related to a specific rule, and we can get indication which one of them passed or failed to meet that rule. And if we want to learn more, we can drill down and learn on that risk and do whatever is required in order to overcome that risk in order to be in a better situation.
So, Avi, what results are customers typically seeing?
So I would say that over time we see a reduction, 80% reduction in unplanned infrastructure outages. And the setup is really quick, like a few minutes adding either an organization account or a new account. And we currently have more than 300 infrastructure misconfiguration rules, and this is growing on a daily basis.
That sounds great. So, Avi, thank you very much for that. And Ori, turning to you. At CloudZone, you help customers achieve well-architected status. Tell us a bit about CloudZone, if you would.
Sure. So hi everyone, and thank you for having me. So let's share a few words about CloudZone. CloudZone is an AWS premier consulting partner, and we're actually the first partner and the AWS partner in Israel and one of the leading partners in EMEA. And CloudZone is basically a matrix company. Matrix is the leading and biggest IT company in Israel for the past 20 years that has expanded worldwide and currently has more than 80 companies worldwide with more than 10,000 employees. And basically, Cloud Zone today, we support a really wide variety of customer portfolio, from big enterprise customers who are just starting their cloud adoption journey, and all the way to the born in the cloud startups, again, in Israel and outside of it. Currently, CloudZone provides both consulting, cloud operation, and delivery services. And the well-architected framework and methodology is a common practice within our company. Worth to say that CloudZone has been collaborating with Continuity Software both as our customer and as a partner in order to provide, continuous assurance and continuous value to our mutual customers.
So, Ori, what is the well-architected program all about?
Cool. So the well-architected, if the well-architected framework is the goal, so the well-architected program is actually the fastest way to get there, so to say. So it's very basic, and it entails basically a review, a mechanism, a well-defined mechanism that helps us to understand exactly, to gain a clear understanding of what is the state of the workload, about the architectural decisions that have been taken there, and following a discovery process, which is rather quick and actually quicker with Availability Guard, we're able to provide deliverables that are indicating and identifying all the risks that we have found within this production workload, and with the recommendations of how to improve this work.
So, I understand that CloudZone has a unique methodology for delivering the program. Can you take us through that?
Sure thing. So what's really special about it, that it's super simple, and we communicate it to our mutual customers. And by doing this, by being very transparent with the way that the methodology works, we're able to basically deliver a lot of value and to our customers. What we basically do, we start the process, by basically onboarding our customers into Availability Guard, and then we basically, in a matter of minutes, we're able to identify all the risk indicators, whether high, medium, or low, that we indicated via the AWS APIs. And then we complete the discovery with a session with one of our architects, who then identify more risk indicators that are usually coming from architectural decisions rather than plain rules in the AWS account. And following that, we basically produce a report that will show us and the customer, and provide a good picture of what's the state of the workload, whether we are risking the business, whether we're good. And following that, we provide a statement of work that will detail all of the tasks that needs to be taken in order to remove those risk indicators, and what is their estimated effort. With the customer's approval, we head on to improve the workload, and that's usually a hands-on delivery that partners like us are trained to do. We go ahead, we provide hands-on delivery to improve the workload. The customers approves the work and fills out a survey, and then we continue to the next production workload.
So, it does sound really good, but who's going to pay for this?
All right, yeah. So I forgot the last piece of it, and actually the good news is that AWS has made available funding to cover part, and in some cases actually the entire well-architected review. What's cool about it, that a partner who is a well-architected partner, by the way, we are all familiar with competencies and programs that AWS puts in front of his partners. So in order to use the well-architected program, you got to be a well-architected partner. So you engage with a well-architected partner, just like CloudZone, right? We define and we execute this as SOW, we improve the workload, and then we're eligible to receive $5,000 in AWS credits when a minimum of 25% of those high-risk indicators are improved. So it's basically super cool.
So Ori, that of course raises a question. Why should I use a partner? Why not just do well-architected on my own?
That's a great question. So, for a customer, he might do well-architected review for the first time, right? We're doing that for a living. We have the right knowledge and the right experts that have done it many times, okay, and are familiar and are able to basically focus you as an organization to the places that matter the most. Okay, that will be the first thing. Then you have the access, to resources, just like us, whether you're gonna tackle as a customer, you're gonna tackle some of those workload improvements, and maybe CloudZone will take part of it. Okay, you've got the access to resources to know exactly what to do in case that there is any skill or expertise gap, right? The third thing you also mentioned before, Avi, is the pace of innovation, right? A customer might did it like a year ago, and today it looks completely different with a new set of rules, new set of risks. And of course, finally, the funding part of it to offset the cost of improvements is something that is not available to a customer without a well-architected partner. So I think taking all of these into consideration, it will be a much quicker and very effective way to become well-architected with every production workload by working with a partner like us.
Well, Ori, thank you very much. I think that was a very, very good answer. So Avi and Ori, you've worked together with many different customers. Could you share with us a customer case study?
Sure. Thank you, Gil. So this specific case study was about a mutual financial technology and services customer on the fintech domain. And the main challenge that the customer had was they had a require for a rapid deployment of financial applications, and they wanted to make sure that they are not suffering from security and availability issues for their critical mission critical workload. They also ask us to validate that they are adhering with the AWS Well-Architected Framework, which is practically the standard that they choose for their own. So the customer deployed Availability Guard. They started with one AWS account, which included hundreds of EC2 instances, 166 load balancers, and 4 RDSs. And they require a tight integration with their Jenkins. This is part of their requirement for having and achieving rapid deployment. So they wanted to test it on the staging environment, the pre-prod, before they run to production. The results were quite amazing. So we found hundreds of risks and non-compliance with the AWS Well-Architected Framework specifically, or most of them were on the downtime, data loss, and security domain. And what we saw and the customers saw over time is that they achieved 80% reduction, and they do see continuous improvement using a Availability Guard.
Avi, can you share with us some of the specific findings from this environment?
Sure. So we have a few examples here, which are quite interesting, and they are also correlated to the AWS Well-Architected tool. This is a tool provided by AWS through which you are getting questions and some potential answers. This is part of the process that CloudZone are doing together with customers once they run Well-Architected review. So this specific example is related to the reliability pillar, question number 2. How do you manage your network topology? And the answer that the customer selected was use highly available connectivity between private addresses in public clouds and on-prem. And what we found over there is that there was a rule that was violated, and site-to-site VPN connection at only one active tunnel. So for sure, this is a single point of failure, which may lead eventually to a network disconnect between the data center and the VPC. The second example is also related to the reliability pillar on the Well-Architected tool. This is question number 7. How does your system withstand component failure? And the answer selected was deploy the workload to multiple locations. So for this specific question, there were several rules that were violated. The first one was internet-facing load balancer with a private subnet. And in this specific case, it's clear that it cannot route inbound traffic into a private subnet that is connected to an internet gateway. That can cause eventually a downtime. And the other additional violated rules were in the RDS domain, for example, RDS with a single availability zone, auto-scaling group utilizing a single availability zone load balancer, and a load balancer with a healthy target instances only in a single availability zone. The third example is related to the security pillar on the Well-Architected tool. This is question number 6. How do you protect your networks? And the selected answer was limit exposure. The rule that was violated was that the public EC2 instances had unrestricted TCP access, and this can cause a very critical situation. And what we saw over there, that the customer didn't implement the principle of least privilege and didn't restrict access to a specific security group or specific IP addresses. And the last example is also on the security domain. Question number 9, how do you protect your data at rest? And the answer selected was enforce encryption at rest. What we found over there, that there was an RDS without storage encryption. And in this specific case, it can cause also a downtime situation in case the customer would like to change it to be encrypted. They will need to shut down the database, which will eventually cause a downtime. And for sure, it's not recommended. It's not the best practice to have a data not encrypted at rest.
Avi, definitely some great findings there. So if I want to try this at home, what do you recommend?
So we have our free trial plan, which is available both for AWS customers and consulting partners such as CloudZone, which are part of the AWS Well-Architected program and are running well-architected reviews with customers. And this free trial plan is available for 14-day trial. It covers the continuous assurance for the AWS Well-Architected Framework, all the 5 pillars, prevent outage and data loss incidents on your AWS environment. It's limited to 500 nodes. You can onboard as much as accounts as you want. And as you can see below, you have the link, so feel free to onboard.
Sounds good. Ori, I understand that at CloudZone, you have a special promotion exclusively for the attendees of today's webinar.
That's right, Gil. So here's the thing. So for the first 10 companies who will sign up and onboard on the link below, that you see right here below, in addition to the AWS funding that are available to offset your well-architected review cost, there will be an additional AWS coupon to cover your year 1 usage of Availability Guard to ensure the continuous assurance of the well-architected framework throughout the entire year. And that's going to be for the first 10 companies who will sign up and onboard onto the link below.
All right. So time for questions. While I bring those up, please feel free to visit the Attachments tab. There you will find a link to today's slides, as well as a link to the free trial version. To get there, just exit full screen mode and you'll see the attachment tab below. Okay, there are definitely some questions coming in here. Let's see. The first one here, Avi, this one's for you. Can you elaborate on how your product works? Do I need to install any agents on my machines and give you admin credentials?
Great question. So practically, you don't need to install anything. You don't need to install any agent. We integrate with the native out-of-the-box APIs provided by AWS. And the best practice is just to define a read-only role, account-to-account read-only role. We collect the configuration data on our graph database. We run the analytics on top, and that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Avi. Second question here, Rob. This one's for you. How frequently does AWS update the framework?
Thanks, Gil. So in terms of updates to the well-architected framework, essentially, these are as frequent as workloads change. Best practices continue to be updated regularly, and so as cloud evolves and new services and best practices are made available, we do assess or reassess the well-architected review, but there's no defined schedule.
Okay, and a question here that's somewhat related, Ori, I think this one's for you. How often should I have a well-architected review? What is the AWS best practice? Or you want to take that one?
Yeah, I had a problem with my mute button. Thanks. So the best practices are to to have a well-architected review every quarter, basically. So that's how often you do it. With a tool like Availability Guard, it's made a lot simpler actually to do this on a continuous basis.
Okay, thank you. And Rob, question here. Is the AWS well-architected tool integrated with the AWS Trusted Advisor or any other services?
At the moment, there's no automation basically to bring in information directly into the tool from the various services. Talking Trusted Advisor, Guard Duty, Inspector, AWS Config. But yeah, you essentially, you can use tools like these services to bring specific information about how your environment is configured. The tool itself doesn't currently have that. There are third-party options as we've covered today.
Okay, thank you. And Avi, question for you. What about infrastructure as code? For example, CloudFormation or Terraform. Are they already solving the problem of misconfigurations?
Thank you, Gil. So when I spoke about the main challenges, I mentioned that automation is very important, but automation does not solve the problem. You can automate whatever you want, but you need to automate also the tests. So our continuous assurance platform makes sure that whatever you automated and eventually deployed either to staging and eventually to production, you do that properly, and you are not going to face any outage or data loss or any security scenario. So it goes together.
Okay, and a couple more questions coming in here. Is there a mapping? Sorry, but maybe mute button. Someone needs to go on mute. Okay, thank you. Is there a mapping to other compliance modules such as NIST, RMF, or just AWS best practices? So I think maybe, Avi, I think maybe that's for you.
Yeah, thank you. So currently, from perspective of compliance, we started with the baseline, which is the AWS best practices, and we are covering all those pillars, those 5 pillars. We do intend in the near future to add also some additional compliance like NIST, and basically we have support for that also on the on-prem and private cloud product for our customers, focusing on storage protection and data recoverability. So this will come for sure.
Okay, and one more, somewhat related. Does the assurance platform take in consideration multi-cloud and hybrid environments?
So again, this is for me as well.
Yes.
So currently we are focusing on AWS. The platform is a multi-cloud platform. So the second platform to come beginning of next year will be Azure. We get a lot of requests as well, but most of our customers are practically and currently using AWS, but the answer is yes. It's a multi-cloud platform, and as initially said, we have also, of course, support for the on-prem and private cloud part. We came from that part, so the answer is yes.
Great. Another question here, Avi, I think this one's for you, regarding cloud formation. Can you consume/import infrastructure as code, such as cloud formation, to assess and model?
So we are not, if I understand correctly the question, we are not scanning the code of the cloud formation or Terraform, but once you use cloud formation and you deploy it, even before going to production, we will make sure that you are risk-free, and we will integrate with whatever automation server you are using, and we'll give you indication if there are any critical risks over there. But currently, we are not scanning the code itself. We are scanning the outcome of using that code.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And that last question concludes our webinar for today. I would like to thank our 3 speakers, Rob from AWS, Avi from Continuity Software, and Ori from CloudZone. Thank you all very, very much for your insights today. And most of all, thank you to you, our audience, for your participation. And we hope to see you on the next webinar.